Welcome back to another edition of Iron Rage, the show where John Romano and I vent our frustrations with the world and our lives. And today, we got a lot of venting to do, John, because the topic is begging for applause.
Oh,
I will start off by saying my good friend Charlie Arms, one of the truly unique individuals in our sport, turned pro at the age of 60. For the first time, he did his first show at, I think, 59 years of age. He was so against this because he's an old timer. He's back from Arnold's day and
Right.
all the guys in the 80s. And when he saw his first show, when he got out of jail after he was in there for 8 years, and he saw these guys, putting their hands up to their ears and kind of, egging the crowd on to give him applause. He said he wanted to throw up first, and then he wanted to beat the crap out of the guy next because he said it was so nauseating that a bodybuilder should have to ask the crowd for applause instead of letting his body do the talking and let the body elicit the applause from the audience.
Exactly.
What's your take on the subject? It's interesting because a lot of these guys think that, and they say, well, the crowds are not like they used to. You have to rile them up. But I don't believe that. I believe if the crowd sees something impressive, they're going to go crazy, especially in New York.
If let your body do the talking. If you're that awesome, the crowd is going to go crazy. But it goes back to my age-old concept that bodybuilding is fucking boring. So the crowds. There is something to be said about the crowds from before. But the crowds from before, like in Arnold's day, when they used to stand on the chairs and scream and yell and throw shit and everything, that was because bodybuilding was relatively new. Now it's seasoned. We've been to a million shows. It's the same stuff. Nobody's doing anything different. If it was like a WWE event, they'd be screaming and throwing shit. But, we don't do that in bodybuilding. It's supposed to be this, demure, respectable, kind of thing where, you go out there and you maintain some kind of decorum. But that's not what it's supposed to be. It's supposed to be a shouting match.
Yeah, but John, Big Ramy is 300 pounds on stage, if not more. He's
Right.
the biggest guy in the history of the sport. He's hitting poses. He does not have to ask for applause.
No.
I don't know if he just doesn't know because he's new and he just kind of copies what he sees. I think that's what these new guys are doing. They're kind of just copying what they're seeing out there. But he does not need to beg for applause because the applause will come. Now, I will say one thing that you are right. The reason why I think shows have gotten boring is not because the competitors are not good. It's because there's too many divisions and they get lulled to sleep watching, bikini and men's physique and figure. Not that those divisions are not relevant. It's just that they're not exciting because you're not seeing oodles of muscle and ripped veins and stuff like that and striated glutes, as Blackman would say. Yeah, but at the same time, when you sit through 400, bikini competitors, how much energy do you have to cheer when the bodybuild's going? You want them to just finish so you can get the hell out of there and go eat dinner. And I think that's one of the problems. But I just don't think that it looks cool to have to ask for applause. I think it just makes you look almost desperate. It's like the desperate girl, propositioning the guy for a date,
Well, yeah, I agree. Part of the problem is the promoters. You're right. They have 6 million competitors in these shows, and they structure the show so that they force you to stay in the seat. Now, if I'm a promoter and I have men's bodybuilding going on, I don't want to force the people who came there to see women's bikini sit through men's bodybuilding so they can get to women's bikini. Tell the people what division is going on when, so that those people that came to see that, and then they can leave.
Right.
There's nobody is going to these shows to see men's physique, men's bikini, men's bodybuilding, 212, women's bikini, women's physique, body. No one came to see it all. If they did, they're fine. Let them sit in the seat and eat whatever they want, eat their food out of their six-pack cooler and all of that shit. But most people did not go to the show to see everybody.
Right.
So the promoters that keep you wrenched into your fucking seat, make sure you stay for the whole thing because they don't want the audience to seem empty when an unpopular division is on. Fuck that. That's not up to them to decide how long you sit in the fucking seat. When you came to see what you came to see, you paid for your ticket, you see what you see, and you leave. That should be acceptable. But they structure these shows so that they force you to stay in the seat. They don't let you know what's going on. There's no timetable. Everything's off. Nothing's on time. And so you got to sit there and sit there and sit there and sit there. And by the time the guy that comes on that you came to see comes on, you're in a fucking insulin coma. You don't want to move anywhere. So you're not going to scream and yell. But, you know, to the point where they ask for applause and they go like this or they're going like this. Look, you can talk to the crowd. Jay Cutler used to do that. He used to come out and you can say, come on, you know, yeah, let's get going. Or, you know, to like wake up. Yeah. Because you got put to sleep by the fucking boring nature of the show. But if you came back in the day when it was just bodybuilding and just men's bodybuilding, you came to see men's bodybuilding. You were jacked up about seeing men's bodybuilding. You came to see Robbie Robinson and Mike Mentzer and Arnold Schwarzenegger and Franco Columbo, and you saw them in the magazines, and you were all psyched up to see them. It was exciting. Now they've made it so fucking boring and so insanely long and arduous to get through these shows. The people are half fucking dead. So of course, you know, you gotta they're not gonna be jumping and screaming and throwing shit. They're half asleep. Well, so I put a lot of this on the promoters by the way they structure these shows, with this concept that you got to force everybody to stay in their seat for the entire duration of the show. And I think that's absolutely wrong. You paid for your ticket. If you want to see 5 minutes of the show, that's your prerogative. Leave. But they think the stadium's going to look empty and that doesn't look good. Fuck that. If you had such a great show, nobody would want to leave. That's up to you. You're the promoter. Right. But, you know, try to make these people stay in their seats and put them through this, you know, 70,000 freaking contestants, 18 crossovers, and to see the same guy 5 times. It's ridiculous. Yeah. You know, you came to see a certain division. You came to see a certain competitor. When they're done, leave. Then you're fresh. Then you'll be excited and you'll be happy to, you know, cheer and yell. And the guy doesn't have to do this and, you know, go like that and, you know, wake everybody up.
Right. You know, we're watching Arnold Schwarzenegger hit some poses on stage, and I don't see Arnold putting his hand anywhere near his ear. He's not pointing to his leg or his abdominal muscles. He's just hitting poses and letting the crowd just react. And I remember, you know, going to the Olympia back when the Olympia was just men's body. They didn't even have women's bodybuilding with it because they would have them on separate days in separate states. And when you got there, you knew the symmetry round started the day off. So you was excited. You'd be in your seat. Everyone would be talking. Who do you think's going to do this? Who's going to win? Who's going to look good? Who's not going to look good? I heard this one is this, and this one, you know, busted his head open. And as soon as the show started, it was bodybuilding. So everyone was so excited and so energized that there was a lot of exuberance there. Nowadays, you know, by the time the super heavyweights get on stage, you know, for the nationals, it's you know 11 o'clock at night, and you know, there's no one left in the audience usually, and you know, people are just deflated. And even still, I still see on the national stage, I do see a lot of you know, audience participation. But you know what? If the audience is not cheering, don't ask them to cheer for you, because that's the worst. It makes you look desperate. It doesn't look cool. I know when guys go and guest pose, they do that because they're trying to rile the audience up. It's almost like a comedian who warms up the show, you know. But when you're competing on stage, you're like an art form. You're supposed to be showing off that art form. And if the audience likes the art form, they applaud. If they don't like the art form, they'll boo. If they don't care about the art form, they won't say anything. That's their prerogative. But for you to get up there and try to like elicit a response from the audience looks uncool. It's like the guy who's standing on stage in the lineup, and I've seen this before, I'm not going to mention names, and he keeps looking back and forth like this and like that and fidgeting on stage and readjusting and re-hitting his pose. It makes you look uncomfortable. You don't want to look at this person. Right. You want to be a cool cat on stage, have heroic music or whatever you're posing to, choreograph your routine, hit your shots, and let the audience respond to the art form that you're displaying.
What's worse is I was at a show this past weekend, a local show. Here's this guy, he's like 5'1". He weighs probably 122 pounds, dripping in oil. Yeah. His tan is all fucked up. It's dripping everywhere. He was horrible, covered in tattoos. He looked like the parking lot attendant looked better than him, right? And he's standing there, this little squirt, trying to act tough and cool and everything. And he's going like this and put his hand up to his ear. He was terrible. What? No one is going to scream for you, dude, unless they're going to scream for you to get the fuck off the stage. He's like, and he's making it was such a travesty to see this guy up there acting like such a moron. It gives us a bad name too, Yeah,
oh yeah.
But then you get a guy. Look, if you get a guy like Chris Cormier when he did that thing with his abs, like a belly dancer, okay. The crowd is impossible to stay quiet when somebody does that. Right. They're going to cheer. They're going to go nuts. They do. Okay? So you have to have something special in order to elicit the response from a crowd. And if you have nothing special, putting your hand up to your fucking ear does not make you special.
No,
it makes it stupid. So, you gotta stop doing this, guys. If you want to hear the crowd scream, give them something to scream about. Don't ask for it. Because you're not going to get it.
Right.
And every single one of you that goes like this, all you're doing is pointing to your ear because no one's doing anything. I have yet to hear anybody scream because you put your hand up. Not going to happen.
You look at guys like Cedric McMillan on stage. I mean, it's such a well choreographed, artistic routine. He never asks for applause. He hits his shots. He's got great music. It's inspiring. It's emotive. It sucks you in, and and then I think about the other guy who's in the same show, as Cedric is, and he's running back and forth from side of the stage to side of the stage, which is the stupidest thing you can do because no one can videotape or photograph you when you're running back and forth. Right. And they're like trying to point at the audience, like trying to get this side to cheer for him, that side to cheer for him. No one's cheering more for anyone than Cedric, and if you know what. They're almost flabbergasted when he's posing. You almost have nothing. You can't even talk. You want to just watch it. It's so beautiful. Guys like Livroni when he would pose back in the day were like that as well. Melvin Anthony was like that. These guys never asked for applause. They didn't need to. Fred Biggie Smalls doesn't ask for applause. He just puts on a tremendous show, and people just go crazy for it. That's what you want. I wasn't the most graceful poser. I didn't have the best aesthetics out there. But what I would do is when I would come up with my routine, whether it be the USA, the Nationals, I would always try to do something entertaining. I would get different music changes. I do voiceovers. I do funny stuff. I would, because I knew that the audience needed to be entertained. Because I'm an audience watcher. I'm a guy. I'm a fan. I want to be entertained. So I would give the audience what I thought I would want. And I would get a lot of applause for it. I didn't have to point to my leg on stage. I didn't have to point to my arms. I just performed. And like I said, I wasn't Melvin Anthony or Cedric McMillan, but I did things that were, I took my physique. I had a freaky physique. I was always in good shape. And I made people laugh and get involved with the routine. And that's why I got applause. And that's what the goal of every competitor out there should be today, is to try to somehow get the audience involved.
Or just do your fucking thing. If you're that good, there's two ways of looking at it. If you have some kind of really freaky body part, like your calves or your abs, or like you did that Cormier thing, or that thing you used to do with your legs, yeah. If you have some kind of, gift like that, okay, that is probably going to elicit a response because people know you for it. You're famous for it. They're waiting for it. When they see it, they react. The other end of it is like Livroni or Cedric. You put on a mesmerizing routine. The applause comes at the end because while you're doing it, people are in awe. Their mouth is open. They're paralyzed because you're so freaking good. And then you get your applause at the end. But I had this little freaking monkey running up and down the stage. Little tattoo guy. He looked like a little Tasmanian devil. With one like this, and then he'd run to the other side and go like this and put his hand up. I go, are you going to hit a shot, or are you just going to do this all night? It's like ridiculous. And like I said before, I have never heard the volume of the audience go up just because a guy did this. Never, not once, ever. So A, guys, if you're listening, it doesn't work. B, it makes you look retarded. And C, you're probably going to get marked down because no one wants to see that shit because you should be posing. So quit it.
I have a question for you. Should the judges mark down for people who do that? Would that eliminate the begging for applause? I think the judges could put an end to it tomorrow. If they said, if we see you begging for applause and doing stuff, goofy shit like that, we're going to mark you down for it because it's unprofessional looking.
Look, 99% of the gripes that we have about bodybuilding shows could be eliminated by the judges if the judges would do their job. Okay? You have gyno, you lose. You don't award a guy first place who has gyno. Because if you do, then no one's going to get their gyno fixed.
Right.
This is not a plug for Dr. Blau, but it's just the truth. If they know that they get on stage, they're going to get marked down for having gyno, they're going to fix their gyno or they're not going to go on stage. If they know that if they go like this, instead of hitting a double bicep shot, they're going to get marked down. So if you do any of this stupid shit, you should get marked down, eliminated, kicked out, disqualified, whatever. If the judges did their job and maintained the status and the required shots and the what do you call it? The form that these guys are supposed to follow, we'd have a lot less of these problems. But They sit there and they don't do anything about it.
Right.
You know, if the next guy that goes like this, if he got disqualified, I guarantee you would never see it again.
Yeah,
ever.
You're right. You know, I was looking on YouTube for video clips, and I put in begging for applause in bodybuilding in the search engine, and what came up number one is Jeb Bush begging a bored crowd for applause. And look where it got him. Donald Trump beat him handedly. So don't beg for applause. If you do, you just look like an imbecile. You look desperate. It doesn't convey professionalism to the judges or to the fans. We don't like it. Matter of fact, it's very, very annoying and irritating. So if anyone out there does it and has done it, and look, we all have done it at some point in our career. I probably did. I've done it I don't know if I did it in a routine, but I probably done it in guest posing. Let's put an end to it right here and now. And if any judges out there are listening, maybe we could, in the competitors meeting the athletes meeting before all the shows, they can say, look, don't beg for applause on stage. And on that note, that'll take us to the end of another episode of Iron Rage. I'm Dave Palumbo with John Romano. We'll see you next time.
Cheers.